It's Monday, February 23rd, 2009, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. I'm your host, Radical Russ Belville. Produced and distributed by the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws in Washington, D.C., this is your NORML Daily Audio Stash, the growing truth about cannabis. Welcome to the most popular podcast regarding marijuana in all of America and all the world, featuring interviews with scientists, politicians, doctors, prohibition policy activists, regular cannabis consumers, musicians, and NORML staff and NORML's board of directors, along with music and comedy no other podcast can offer. You can always find out more about our show at our website, stash.normal.org, and continue the education and conversation on our blog as well. We're ending marijuana prohibition with education, one listener at a time. The podcasting and blogging technology for the NORML Daily Audio Stash is provided by Red Aphid Interactive Media. For your professional web design needs, visit redaphid.com. Good day, Stashers. Welcome to the podcast. What a great way to start a week. You've probably read on the Stash already that Assemblyman Tom Amiano of California has introduced a full-scale legalization tax and regulate measure in California. And this afternoon, the New Jersey Senate passed S-119, the medical marijuana bill, on a 22-16 vote. We'll have more about that in our hemp headlines. Also, over the weekend, put up plenty of posts for you to check out at stash.normal.org, including updates on Minnesota's House File 292, another medical marijuana bill that passed its committee 9-6, and Montana Senate Bill 326, which has moved ahead from committee. This bill would expand medical marijuana in the state of Montana by allowing more types of medical providers to recommend marijuana, as well as expanding the limits that patients must obey. But the biggest post I had over the weekend was probably one of my biggest mistakes here on the Daily Audio Stash. I had posted footage from Real Time with Bill Maher featuring an interview with Representative Ron Paul from Texas. Now, Ron Paul has been an ardent supporter of ending the drug war and has introduced hemp bills for as long as he's been in the House of Representatives. And I unfortunately disagree with him on some points, and let that opinion be known in not very politically correct terms, shall we say. And I just wanted to apologize and say I'm sorry to Representative Paul and to any of his supporters that may have taken umbrage at my use of terminology. It was rather impolitic of me, especially on a Stash blog when we need to be concentrating on ending adult marijuana prohibition and not on what different political views we may have on other issues. So I apologize for that, and I will keep the Stash a place that's welcome to all people of all political beliefs and religious beliefs. So my apologies, and believe me, I've learned my lesson. Now, coming up on today's Stash, we've got some excellent audio from the New Jersey Senate hearings that took place today on the S-119 bill for medical marijuana. Some incredible testimony and the vote. We've also got reaction from Jim Miller and Ken Wolski from the Coalition for Medical Marijuana New Jersey, brought to us by our good friend, the founder of the Daily Audio Stash, Chris Goldstein, who is on hand to report on events. Also, in our second interview segment, we'll be speaking with California NORML coordinator Dale Geringer on the announcement of Tom Amiano's bill to end marijuana prohibition in the Golden State. And speaking of golden, for our musical break here, Daily Toker Tunes, brought to you by MarijuanaMusicAwards.com, we'll get some new music from The Golden Child. This is a great way to start a week that ends up February, which is already the highest trafficked month on the Daily Audio Stash since its inception. Let's start the week right with a party bowl of Purple Kush, turn up the speakers, and let it rip. It's time for your NORML Daily Audio Stash.
Hello, I'm Paul Stanford from the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, or THCF. Medical marijuana is legal in 13 states today, and THCF has clinics in 8 of those states. Our doctors help qualified patients obtain an authorization for medical marijuana in their state. Patients are eligible for medical marijuana with a history of either severe chronic pain and or nausea, cancer, AIDS or HIV, hepatitis, glaucoma, seizure disorders like epilepsy, chronic muscle spasms such as multiple sclerosis or asthma, neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, and gastrointestinal disorders like IBS or Crohn's disease. If you or someone you know has one of these conditions, our doctors will help you obtain a permit for medical marijuana. THCF Medical Clinics has offices in Washington State, Oregon, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Nevada, Montana, and now Michigan. Call 1-800-723-0188 or go to the web at hemp.org or 1-800-723-0188.
Now it's time to take a look at the latest stories about marijuana from news organizations across America and around the world in our NORML daily audio stash, Hemp Headlines. Winners announced in NORML's $10,000 Pro Cannabis Ad Contest. We are proud to announce our grand prize winner in the $10,000 Pro Cannabis Ad Contest was Jason Druss with the advertisement, "Legalization, Yes We Can."
I'm a doctor.
I'm a lawyer.
I'm a journalist.
I'm a student.
I'm a teacher.
I'm a representative.
Jason wins a $3,500 grand prize for that ad. Our first place winner for $2,000 was the ad Cannabis Quandary from Andrew Patterson.
So here's the deal. We've got this new president who seems really cool. I mean, the guy's well-spoken, he's open-minded, he seems to listen to people, and he's extremely well-educated. I mean, he graduated from Harvard Law School. But this is a guy who's...
Our second place winner of a $1,000 prize is Nice Peter with his legalization song.
There were 765,000 marijuana arrests in 2007. That's not for dealers and kingpins, no, that's just...
Our third place prize of $750 went to Eric Strom for the Dear President Obama ad.
Dear Mr. President, last November you were elected on a platform of change. You promised the country reform on the political system. Well, let me tell you what NORML.org and many other Americans want changed.
And 10 runners-up had a $275 prize each, including some of my favorites like Kathy Jordan with Cannabis as Medicine is Normal.
Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when you come for me? Bad boys, no, all people out there.
And Anthony Bowie with his Normal Flask Felony.
You're under arrest.
For what?
For possession of a substance that's perfectly harmless when used responsibly and in moderation.
You've got to be kidding. Leave me alone.
Pretty absurd, right? But did you know that there have been over 20 million cannabis-related arrests made?
And James Grange's Marijuana Weed Pot Law Reform.
I'm a normal guy. I like the outdoors. I work a 9 to 5. And I use marijuana recreationally and responsibly in the privacy of my own home. Recently, I became one of the 20 million Americans.
You can view all the winners and runners-up through links at NORML.org. Plus, the top 4 and 1 chosen runner-up will be played as advertisements on the Daily Audio Stash, so listen for them. I'll be playing them in reverse order, so today's will be the runner-up, tomorrow will be the third place, the second place, the first place, and then on Friday, the grand prize winner will be the played commercial for the Daily Audio Stash. California Assemblyman introduces legislation to tax and regulate pot like alcohol. Speaking at a landmark press conference today, California Assemblyman Tom Amiano, Democrat of San Francisco, introduced comprehensive legislation to tax and regulate the commercial production and sale of cannabis in a manner similar to alcohol. Assemblyman Amiano said, quote, "With the state in the midst of an historic economic crisis, the move toward regulating and taxing marijuana is simply common sense. This legislation would generate much-needed revenue for the state, restrict access to only those over 21, end the environmental damage to our public lands from illicit crops, and improve public safety by redirecting law enforcement efforts to more serious crimes. California has the opportunity to be the first state in the nation to enact a smart, responsible public policy for the control and regulation of marijuana." End quote. The proposal is the first marijuana legalization bill ever introduced in California. Dale Geringer, director of California NORML, a sponsor of the bill, said, quote, "It's time for California taxpayers to stop wasting money trying to enforce marijuana prohibition and to realize the tax benefits from a legal, regulated market instead." End quote. As introduced, Amiano's measure would allow for the licensed production and sale of cannabis to consumers age 21 and over. Licensed cultivators would pay an excise tax of $50 per ounce of cannabis. In addition, the proposal would impose a sales tax on commercial sales. Amiano's proposal would not affect the state's medical marijuana law, allowing patients and caregivers to grow their own medicine. If enacted, the measure would raise over $1 billion per year in state revenue, according to an economic analysis by California NORML. Amiano's bill comes at a time of growing support for legalization of marijuana. A recent Zogby poll reported that nearly 6 in 10 West Coast voters support taxing and regulating marijuana like alcohol. Faced with a $40 billion budget deficit, other public officials have joined in endorsing Amiano's bill, including San Francisco Sheriff Mike Hennessy and Betty Yee, a member of the State Board of Equalization, which oversees the collection of sales taxes. Currently, tens of millions of dollars are paid annually in state and local taxes by licensed distributors of medical marijuana. However, these sales only represent a fraction of the overall statewide marijuana market. Geringer said, quote, "The millions of dollars raised each year on the sales of medicinal cannabis is only the tip of the iceberg. Kudos to Assemblyman Amiano for proposing a path-breaking bill that would benefit our economy, safety, and freedom by making marijuana a winning proposition for California." End quote. What a glorious day to see the state of California finally introducing a bill to tax and regulate. And with Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger having been quoted as saying, "It's only a plant," and "It's not a drug, it's a leaf." I can't see how he could reasonably veto something like this, although I'm sure he's going to find a way to justify it, probably through law enforcement pressure and worries that all of California will turn into heroin junkies or something. But this is an important first step, so all you California stashers, get on the phones and start talking to your assemblymen and senators, and let's get this bill moving. New Jersey Senate passes S-119, a medical marijuana bill, by a 22-16 vote. Well, of course, the other exciting news today is this passage of the medical marijuana bill, which seems destined to make it through and make New Jersey the 14th medical marijuana state, keeping our fingers crossed. Rather than tell you the particulars of the bill, I wanted to present some of the testimony from the senators as they heard this bill today. This first clip is from the senator who introduced the bill, Senator Scutari, a Democrat.
13 other states have medical marijuana laws on the books, and there is no evidence to suggest that it has had any impact whatsoever on the level of recreational use. Our law will be the tightest one of all of them. I certainly realize that marijuana is not the ideal way to provide relief to those who are suffering. Scientists will keep on searching for better methods, better medicines, and ways to turn chronic conditions into curable ones. My bill will not halt that process, and I look forward to the day when it is no longer necessary. Unfortunately, that day has not yet come. In 1999, the National Academy of Sciences Institute of Medicine published a report on the medical value of marijuana that was commissioned by the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy. The report made a series of recommendations and observations, including a recommendation to conduct clinical trials of smoked marijuana in the hopes of developing better and more consistent cannabinoid delivery systems. Sadly, the Institute's conclusions have continued to be inexplicably ignored. In the report is a passage that I believe perfectly encapsulates the debate over medical marijuana. Quote, "Patients who are currently suffering from debilitating conditions, unrelieved by legally available drugs, and who might find relief with marijuana will find little comfort in a promise of a better drug 10 years from now. In terms of good medicine, marijuana should rarely be recommended unless all reasonable options have been eliminated. But then what? It is conceivable that the medical and scientific opinion might find itself in conflict with drug regulations. This presents a policy issue that must weigh, at least temporarily, the needs of individual patients against broader social issues. So the real question that we must answer here is whether or not the state of New Jersey's interest in arresting and prosecuting chronically and terminally ill persons for the possession of limited quantities of marijuana outweighs the benefits those people would receive from its use. We aren't talking about thrill seekers or drug addicts here. We certainly aren't talking about a population for whom medical marijuana could plausibly be a gateway drug. We are talking about very sick people who are in desperate need of relief. Those people and these people are not criminals, and it does not behoove us as a society to treat them as such.
Following Senator Scutari, we heard testimony from Senator Baroni, a Republican, who received lots of input from medical marijuana patients, and he retells a couple of their stories on the Senate floor.
These are his words. I am a husband and father of 3 daughters, ages 8, 6, and 3 years old. I'm a former employee of the AT&T phone company. However, I've been disabled for the past 8+ years. I've lived in New Jersey all my life, and I come before you, the committee, today asking for your help. My MS causes me to experience twitching, shaking, and jerking from spasms, which cause me to lose my balance, which sometimes renders me in a wheelchair. I also have experienced some blindness from my condition. After trying many drugs my doctors have prescribed, including OxyContin, oxycodone, Roxicet, Vicodin, Baclofen, Neurontin, Elavin, Ambien, etc., I have found no relief, and often the side effects are worse than the illness they are using them to treat. I've also tried holistic approaches to relieve my symptoms, including chiropractic, spinal decompression, cortisone injections directly into the spinal cord, acupuncture, and even yoga, but nothing worked. After finding no relief in legally prescribed medicines or non-traditional medical treatment, I tried marijuana, which provided relief from my MS pain and spasms. This relief allowed me to walk better, see better, go fishing with my kids, or the agony of spasming for a 37-year-old father of 3 who can't walk because of it, who can't play with his kids because of it. Or about a young person who is diagnosed positive with HIV/AIDS, and because of whose antiretroviral drugs can't eat. This bill can help these people. We come here for lots of reasons, but can there be a greater calling for us than to actually ease people's suffering? To carry them through periods of unimaginable pain. That's what we can do today. This is our chance to give these people who live under a cloak of pain, we can give them a chance for hope and relief over fear and pain. We can do this for them, and we should. Thank you, Mr. President.
Next, Senator Lesniak, a Democrat, speaks up on the conscience of medical marijuana and the importance of this vote.
First of all, I'm very proud of Senator Scutari for sponsoring this bill and his inspiring words along with Senator Baroni. This is a vote of conscience. My conscience tells me that we need and should ease people's pain and suffering, give them hope in life, allow them to live, because God knows they've suffered enough and don't need to suffer anymore. We, by not allowing this use as a use of last resort, are prolonging that suffering and causing them more pain.
Finally, Senator Madden, a Democrat, speaks up in opposition to the bill for fear that it's too loosely written and may lead to widespread abuse.
The concept of marijuana for medicinal purposes I wholeheartedly support. I supported it when I served on the Health Committee, and I still support that concept. My problems today are clearly with the broad language within the bill. Comments are made about how narrow the scope of patients will be in this particular bill. Part 2 of those qualifying for marijuana are those that simply have a chronic or debilitating disease or a medical condition that produces severe or chronic pain. Migraine headaches extended for a long period of time. San Diego has a report out of what just their cities were experiencing. There are good doctors that will have a patient relationship and do things the right way. But then there's always those physicians that oversupply the Oxycontins and the Percocets of the world. There's also going to be those physicians that abuse the marijuana laws, which is before us. Some of the examples that they found out in San Diego and the Los Angeles area are that the doctors were giving marijuana recommendations for essentially every ailment that they could think of. Narrowly, they were looking at PMS, ADD, Tourette's syndrome, schizophrenia, alcoholism, etc. The language in the bill, I believe, is very broad-based and open to a lot of wide interpretation. I sympathize with the individuals who are that have cancer treatments, those with glaucoma, MS, and the like. The reality is, on the studies on the West Coast right now, those individuals represent approximately 3% of the people that are being serviced by these distribution centers. I believe that with the language in the bill, the potential is paramount that our students or our children, primarily between the age of 18 and 30, will be experiencing marijuana for the first time in their life. More recent national studies have shown this. Of the 13 states that have approved marijuana for medicinal purposes, they rank the highest on first-time users on national surveys. So I just wanted to point out on record that I do support marijuana for medicinal purposes, but under the current language of this bill, I'm going to have to vote no today. I also question whether or not these dispensaries will be able to be put within school zones. There's no language in there preventing that. The majority of the users historically wind up between the age of 18 and 30, not necessarily the population that we think we are going to help. But thank you for your time. I'd like to be on record. Thank you.
Finally, Senate President Cody, a Democrat, calls the vote, and following the vote, offers a very lame joke.
I ask Secretary Open Machine ask you to please cast your vote. You're going to vote. Let's vote. Come on. You can celebrate later. No. You took it the wrong way. All votes recorded, properly recorded. I'll direct the Secretary to close the machine for a tally. Senate Bill 119 having received 22 votes in the affirmative, 16 in the negative. I declare passed. Excuse me. Senator Scuteri, I just want you to know that was a congratulate you, and it was from Michael Phelps. Okay.
I'm a normal guy. I like the outdoors. I work a 9 to 5. And I use marijuana recreationally and responsibly in the privacy of my own home. Recently, I became one of the 20 million Americans who have been arrested for a marijuana-related offense. Now I face jail time and my future is in jeopardy. But couldn't police resources have been spent more wisely? After all, 90% of all marijuana-related arrests are for simple possession. Is this normal?
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws is the largest grassroots drug law reform organization in America. So every Monday we visit with the activists in drug law reform who are fighting for our freedom. Get motivated to get it regulated. Join us in some political activism today. You can start by visiting NORML.org. There's been some great news on both coasts when it comes to marijuana law reform, and joining us from the East Coast all the way over in New Jersey is the founder of the NORML Daily Audio Stash and the host of Active Voice Radio, Chris Goldstein. Chris, welcome back, my man.
Hey, it is great to be back on this wonderful day here in New Jersey, Russ. It is absolutely a beautiful day here in New Jersey with the Senate passing medical marijuana.
Yeah, the 22-16 vote just took place, and you've got some folks here to talk about it.
All right, well, I'm going to pass the phone on to Jim Miller. He's the co-founder of the Coalition for Medical Marijuana of New Jersey, and he has been really the most visible and strongest activist in this regard here in New Jersey, really honoring his late wife. Hey, Russ, how's it going, man?
It's very good, Jim. You got to be pretty excited about this result in the Senate. Tell our listeners a little bit about how you're feeling right now.
It's one of those feelings that I don't get. The closest I can describe it accurately would be a natural high.
Yeah.
And that won't be quite so natural shortly, but it is right now. It's been a long time. I pushed my wife's wheelchair across the state in 1993 with a sign, medical marijuana for multiple sclerosis, 58 miles in 25 hours. And it was good to be back at the place where I ended that walk 16 years ago. So for people that think this happened quickly, it really didn't. And while I'm really happy, part of me is kind of sad that this still isn't happening quick enough for people that are sick and dying. There's not going to even make it till the end of this year, some people. So, it's hard to be really excited when I know that it's still going to be a while for those who are in pain at this moment. But I'm feeling pretty good, I got to say. It looks like the hardest hurdles are behind us now, so it should be a matter of time.
How does the companion bill look in the Assembly?
Well, it's identical except for they have to work out the provisions that they added to the Senate version, which would be the alternative care centers rather than just having patients have to grow their own. And it looks like that should be pretty good since it didn't become a roadblock in the Senate. The Assembly should understand they can get that passed also. If it didn't stop anybody in the Senate, it certainly won't in the Assembly. That's the easier of the two houses to get this passed. So hopefully they stand ready to act pretty quick.
And from all observations, it looks like Governor Corzine is willing to sign that bill too.
Yeah, he is. I buttonholed him on a radio show about 2.5 years ago, to where he did have to say that he would sign it if it reached his desk. He reiterated that 6-8 weeks ago, shortly after it passed out of the Senate Health Committee, that he saw it being a 6-1 vote in the Health Committee and thought that if that was a signal that we could get this done without a lot of debate, if it wouldn't use up a lot of time, that they would be wanting to deal with other issues, that he'd like to get to his desk as soon as possible and sign it. So he's really backed himself into a corner where he can do nothing but sign it if it gets out of the Assembly and gets to his desk.
A lot of our listeners on the Stash are also following on the Stash blog, and we posted the link to the New Jersey Senate feed. So a lot of us were watching from the camera feed that they send out over cyberspace, and we could hear people in the audience, but we really didn't get a good view of the gallery. Could you describe the scene for us? Did you have a lot of supporters there?
Yeah, there was the gallery was full. There was more people that were supporters than opponents, and they naturally gravitated to their own sides. It was really kind of quiet, mostly because we weren't supposed to be making any noise one way or the other. But you could see the look of defeat from the moment it started. It was known that Senator Scutari wasn't going to have the bill brought up for a vote if he didn't think he had the votes. So trusting him to know his colleagues and how they might vote, it was pretty much hopeful that we're very hopeful that it would pass, barring any unforeseen circumstances. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the vote was 22-16 with people either abstaining or not present.
That's correct.
So it was kind of nice that it was quiet. There was that moment when the lights started going red or green next to each senator's name, and at first the people that voted no voted quickest. So the red lights went up faster than the green lights, and everybody was quietly counting, pointing and kind of helping themselves count. And then before I could reach the count, I heard somebody go, 21! And that was it. When I heard that 21, it was better than any time I've ever played blackjack. Winning any kind of money to hear that. That was the moment, I guess, when, felt like it's really going to happen.
Yeah.
For the first time, I'm giving into pretty well total optimism.
Yeah, the best 21 call outside of Atlantic City, right?
Yeah, right. I would rather have heard that than had a large bet out and heard 21. This is the nicest time I've ever heard that number exclaimed. And then it was nice when Chris needed to get a picture of Ken and I afterwards. It so happened that the opponents were dismally gathered not 15 feet away, so I suggested we get them in the background. And then the second picture, I more or less turned halfway to them with a gesture of as you would introduce somebody. So I look forward to seeing that.
I'd like to get those pictures up on the stash. Let Chris know that, okay?
Yeah. And unlike a lot of people, I'm of the mind that the 16 senators that voted against this should now have to explain their rationale and where they got their information. There's no free pass here. It doesn't stop for them here. As a matter of fact, I think they should be an example for the people in the assembly to realize that their no vote is going to carry a little bit of baggage. If they're not ready to defend their no vote, they'd better be ready to abstain or vote yes if they can. But for the people that can't vote yes, the message will be clear by the time it comes to the assembly that if you vote no, there will be no getting around the discussion that once you voted, you can't pass it off and saying that there are other issues on your desk that you have to deal with first. When they vote no, they owe an explanation to the New Jersey Hospice and Palliative Care Association. They owe an explanation to the sick and dying New Jersey residents who say this works for them. And I personally will see that they're held accountable.
I agree, Jim. And let's get our listeners to help you on that. What are some resources that they could use online or to get in touch with these assembly members or senators that you could give to them now?
I would be suggesting that hopefully I will have something up to give somebody a model or a template of what they might want to say in a short version. To more or less let them know, saying that the Republican Party does not. The Republican Assembly people do not have to vote against this bill because they feel they should, because they're Republicans, that, as I've been saying, they're just poking a hole in their sinking ship right now, that this is a popular issue. And with Senator Baroni, Republican Senator Baroni, who was a very emphatic yes vote in the committee, when he spoke today, he should have been able to show Republicans that you can vote yes on this, and there will be no repercussions from the party. There just won't. There will be no sanctions at all. So hopefully the Republican Assembly people will realize that there's no penalty for voting yes, there's no penalty for abstaining, but they will be held accountable for a no vote.
Yeah. Well, we encourage everyone to check out Coalition for Medical Marijuana in New Jersey at cmmnj.org. We've got links to that at the Stash blog at stash.normal.org. And Jim Miller is with the coalition, and thanks so much for joining us. And let's go back to Chris Goldstein for a moment.
We get Ken Wolski. He's the co-founder of the Coalition for Medical Marijuana of New Jersey. Did you catch the Michael Phelps joke at the end there?
I did. I was going to ask about that.
It was very disingenuous because if you recall, Mr. Cody served as governor when Jim McGreevey went through his stuff. And when he was Governor Cody, his wife did a campaign against postpartum depression in which he was railed by the media. And he was very upset about jokes that were made about his wife's postpartum depression. And the whole setup with the phone call was pretty surprising to see there at the end of the session today. Ken Wolski for you here, Russ. This is Ken Wolski. He's a registered nurse. He's been working on this issue for many years here in New Jersey. He's the co-founder of the Coalition for Medical Marijuana.
Hi, Russ. How are you today?
Oh, Ken, welcome back to the show. Glad to have you here. I had mentioned I'd ask this of Jim, but I'll ask this of you. Describe your feelings on this great day.
Well, I'm just relieved, it was so close, really. There were all these rumors going around before the vote that they were going to pull the bill because they didn't have enough votes, and there were rumors that they weren't going to post the bill today. So, I tried not to be discouraging. I'm always trying to keep positive, and I know that eventually medical marijuana is going to pass in New Jersey. That's the important thing, just being really certain of a positive outcome, because there's just too much science and logic and common sense that supports it, Russ. So,
yeah.
We're just convinced that it's going to happen, and I'm just glad it happened quickly, and it happened today on the first vote.
I listened online to a lot of the hearing and heard some incredible testimony from both Democrat and Republican assembly or senators there in New Jersey.
Right.
That was wonderful, and I just wanted to address one thing about this, though. At the very end, where the Michael Phelps little joke was made, seemed to hit with a thud. What do you make of that joke there?
No, it was just stupid, basically. I try not to make too much of it. The Senator Cody, who was the president of the Senate, he didn't support the bill, so I don't know. I guess he was disappointed that the bill passed, and he was making some little joke about it. But I don't make too much of it. I'm just really glad it's passed. I want to focus on the positive. And this is just one more step in the legislative process too, Russ. We still have to go through the assembly, and we got to get this vote. We got to get this bill to Governor Corzine's desk. We got to get it signed into law, and then we got to get the regulations enacted so that we're sure that this bill is the bill that we want, the program, the medical marijuana program that we want in New Jersey.
Excellent. And we've directed everyone out to the coalition's website at cmmnj.org so they can get involved, get that passed through the assembly. Is there anything our listeners can do to help you out?
Well, sure. We're very grateful for all the help that we got from all around the country. The people have been calling the senators. They just filled up their messages, and now we move to the assembly, and we want to do the same thing. We want to let all of our assemblymen here and assembly women here in New Jersey know how much support medical marijuana has, around the country and throughout the state. Certainly, it's perfectly okay for out-of-state residents to call these assembly people. We have the opposition is doing it. Believe me, they have people from Florida and Maryland and New York State and certainly good old Washington D.C. Trying to influence the legislation here in New Jersey. So we're encouraging our supporters to let the assembly people here in New Jersey know how much support there is for medical marijuana, Russ.
Thank you so much. Ken Wolski from the Coalition for Medical Marijuana, New Jersey. I've just been scanning the news, and here, an hour after this got, passed, I still don't see anything in the mainstream media trumpeting this passage here. Was there any reaction? Did you have any New Jersey media in the assembly?
Oh yeah, I saw public television, the local. There were reporters interviewing you, Jim, right? Yeah, Fox News locally. I think WHYY. I heard about it there. NJN was there, which is New Jersey Public Media, but Fox 29 News out of Philadelphia should have something pretty quick.
Excellent. Well, Chris Goldstein is, of course, the founder of the NORML Daily Audio Stash and host for the first couple of years, and also producer at ActiveVoiceRadio.com. Hey, Chris, thanks so much for helping us out today.
Russ, thank you so much, and everyone have a wonderful day out there. It's certainly a beautiful day here in New Jersey.
Have you considered medical marijuana? Double-blind, peer-reviewed studies have found cannabinoid therapies to be successful in treating the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, brain cancers, chronic pain, diabetes mellitus, dystonia, fibromyalgia, GI disorders, hepatitis C, HIV/AIDS, hypertension, incontinence, MRSA, multiple sclerosis, osteoporosis, pruritus, rheumatoid arthritis, sleep apnea, and Tourette's syndrome, as well as anecdotal evidence suggesting relief from anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress, plus reduction in the need for narcotic painkillers. Side effects of medical marijuana can include euphoria, relaxation, anxiety, panic reactions, paranoia, tachycardia, dry eyes, dry mouth, concentration and reaction time impairment, appetite increase, and in 37 states, arrest and incarceration. But medical marijuana is non-toxic and cannot cause overdose. Medical marijuana. It's not for everyone, but ask your doctor if medical marijuana may be right for you. The battle to end adult marijuana prohibition can sometimes seem endlessly frustrating and impossible to overcome. One way we bond as a community and draw strength to continue is by rejuvenating our spirit through art and music. The Marijuana Music Awards exist to recognize those sonic artists in all genres of music who feature a ganja-friendly message to motivate and inspire all the cannabis community. Our daily Toker tunes, brought to you by MarijuanaMusicAwards.com, feature the finest in blues, rock, jazz, hip-hop, rap, reggae, country, bluegrass, and dance music to enhance that 420 feeling and refresh all you stashers for another day on the front lines of the drug war. Enjoy this cut from MarijuanaMusicAwards.com and visit our blog at stash.normal.org to learn how you can vote for your favorites and enter your toker tunes in the 2009 Marijuana Music Awards. Today's Music with a Message on Monday comes from The Golden Child with his award-winning song, It's the End, which won 2008 Global Marijuana Music Awards Best World Music Song. The Golden Child is no stranger to the harsh realities of the world. He grew up for half his life in the streets of Detroit and the other half in Texas. Having experienced the rough realities of street life, The Golden Child developed a very diverse style of rap. After winning some of the most prestigious battle competitions that Texas and Detroit have to offer, The Golden Child proved he is almost lyrically unmatched. The Golden Child is currently working on his highly anticipated CD, The Beginning of the End. He mixes a combination of Detroit-style battle songs, Houston club songs, and a West Coast-style reality rap, which guarantees the CD to be an instant classic on the market. The Golden Child recently performed with the All Smoked Out National Tour, which toured across 48 states. Check out more about The Golden Child at myspace.com/TheGoldenChild420. Here's the 2008 Global Marijuana Music Award for Best World Music Song, It's the End, by The Golden Child.
11 years ago, as a condition for ending the Persian Gulf War, the Iraqi regime was required to destroy its weapons of mass destruction, to cease all development of such weapons, and to stop all support for terrorist groups. The Iraqi regime had violated all of those obligations. It possesses and produces chemical and biological weapons.
Woke up this morning and started to earn with a million visions in my thoughts, and I'm screaming, fuck the world, I'm ready to die. In heaven I won't cry, no more political lies, no more corruption of cops. I'm shell-shocked, thinking that life is easily taken. We obliterated the races and lead a country wasted. All these prophecies are crooked thoughts laced with weed, forming ESP. It's haunting me in my dreams, and it seems my daddy's thinking I'm crazy, and maybe he could be right, cause I'm ending their life when they coming to take me. It's a hell-born sandstorm of blind intuition, recognitive ambition, a premonition and vision. It's the end, this is the end of the world as we know it. Animosity is growing, look at the way things are going. It's the end, this is the end of the world as we know it. Animosity is growing, look at the way things are going. It's the end, this is the end of the world as we know it. Animosity is growing, look at the way things are going. It's the end, this is the end of the world as we know it. Animosity is growing, look at the way things are going. It's the end. Oh no, will I see the sunrise? They dropping bombs, and in the end won't nobody survive. They say my visions are a form of psychosis. We bombing whoever's closest, whoever's close to approach us. It's the end. How many children have to die in the struggle? They turn the churches to rubble. Look at our world as it crumbles. They are human beings that bleed like you and me. My dreams are full of people screaming and demons plotting and scheming. They don't need a reason for killing us all. I'm begging you, Lord, to stop all this violence and let them hear your heavenly call. This is the end of a whole generation with nuclear domination. Just look what's left of our nations. It's the end, this is the end of the world as we know it. Animosity is growing, look at the way things are going. It's the end, this is the end of the world as we know it. Animosity is growing, look at the way things are going. It's the end, this is the end of the world as we know it. Animosity is growing, look at the way things are going. It's the end, this is the end of the world as we know it. Animosity is growing, look at the way things are going. It's the end.
I'm not willing to stake one American life
Oh, help us please, Lord.
Saddam Hussein. Failure to act can embolden other tyrants.
I beg you please, Lord.
Allow terrorists access to new weapons and new resources, and make blackmail a permanent feature.
Oh, help us please, Lord.
The United Nations would betray the purpose of its founding.
I beg you please,
completely irrelevant to the problems of our time.
Oh, help us, please, Lord.
We accept it. Like other generations of Americans,
I beg you, please,
the
Lord.
responsibility of defending human liberty against violence and oppression. By our resolve, we will strengthen others. By our courage, we will give hope to others. By our actions, we will secure peace and lead the world to a better day. May God bless America.
Oh, help us, please, Lord.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, "Fool me once, shame on you." If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Are you or is someone you know a marijuana smoker? Have you or is someone in your family been arrested for a marijuana violation? You need to know the truth about pot. NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, is the most comprehensive source of information regarding marijuana and its effects on health, as well as legal issues. NORML even offers a database of lawyers specializing in cannabis in your area. NORML, the nation's largest and most successful marijuana law reform organization, has spent decades gathering the knowledge and science on everything related to cannabis. NORML is the best resource to find out the truth about marijuana, connect with a lawyer in your area, or help find an end to prohibition. Information is available at NORML.org, that's NORML.org, or toll free at 888-67-NORML.
Today was quite an exciting day for cannabis law reform in the state of California, and joining us to discuss it is California NORML Coordinator Dale Geringer on the phone from San Francisco. And Dale, welcome back to the Stash.
Thank you.
Now, I don't want to mispronounce the representative's name, so what is the name of the gentleman?
Tom Amiano.
Tom Amiano, okay.
Gentleman from San Francisco.
Great.
Introduced a landmark bill to legalize, tax, and regulate marijuana in the state. In response to the economic crisis, the bill would raise over $1 billion in tax revenues, and it would actually turn marijuana into a paying proposition for California.
What are the numbers on the tax there? How much do they propose?
The bill proposes an excise tax of $50 per ounce, which works out to about $1 per joint, which is really a reasonable amount for legal pot. You have to recognize that under this bill, you would have legal producers, legally licensed producers, and legally licensed distributors. The free market price would go way down from where it is now. To a fraction of the $10 to $15 that you see charged for joints these days in the clubs. But there would be $1 of the much reduced price would go to the state, and that would raise close to $1 billion, close like the cigarette tax. And then you'd also have sales taxes, and then of course you'd have lots of jobs, thousands of jobs generated, and spin-off industries, and probably hemp industry as well. So you're looking at tens of billions of dollars in legal business that would also be generated.
Yeah.
And of course you would be saving the state the cost of marijuana enforcement for arresting, prosecuting, and imprisoning all the pot offenders.
Yeah, and with California facing, what is it, a $41 billion deficit?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it really, marijuana prohibition is really a losing economic proposition for the taxpayers of California. And, Tom Amiano, I think, chose the right moment to finally, bring this up. For all these years, politicians have really been reluctant to go all the way to legal distribution, which is the only workable solution to ending marijuana prohibition. Because if you just decriminalize, you still have a black market.
Right.
And, marijuana possession is pretty much decriminalized in California anyhow, but we have a tremendous black market. We have these people growing out in the hills, in the national parks, and people are all upset about it, and they send out helicopters to chase it down. And here we have marijuana as the major drug being, smuggled in from Mexico, where it had thousands of people killing themselves in this drug war over marijuana.
Yeah.
So, none of this makes any sense at all. Finally, we have the necessary solution to the marijuana prohibition problem out there, which is to repeal prohibition.
Yeah. Now, how would this bill affect the existing system of dispensaries and medical marijuana in California?
It exempts medical marijuana. So medical marijuana, patients could still grow their own or have collectives and not have to pay the excise tax. But I think most people would find it a lot more convenient to just, walk into the store and buy their own. But for patients who want to grow their own or have a collective, that would still be there.
Now, you recently sponsored a question in a Zogby poll that showed that there's better support for this in the West than was previously believed. Do you think that portends for passage of this bill?
No, I wish I could say it portends for passage of the bill, but I think that the major problem remains the conflict with federal law, and I'm sure that law enforcement will raise a big hue and cry about that. So I do not see this being passed into law this year, and I certainly do not see it getting the governor's signature. But this is the first shot, really. This is sort of the opening round. It always takes multiple years to to develop path-breaking new legislation and concepts like this. So I'm sure it will come back in more refined forms, but hopefully set the agenda.
Yeah. You mentioned how the legalization of marijuana in the state of California would drastically reduce the price. Would you see any effect rippling out to some of the other states in the area if this were to pass?
They probably try to do it themselves.
I would think so. I mean, I can't imagine that, the old saying is, as California goes, so goes the nation. And I can't imagine that the nearby states, especially the medical marijuana states, could exist very long with legalized marijuana in California without wanting to taste a bit of that themselves.
I think you've got a point.
So what do you think is a good timetable for a bill like this? It's got its first introduction this year. Do you make any predictions for how long it might take?
No, I do not.
Risky business, huh?
Yes.
All right. Before we wrap things up, Dale, anything else you want to mention about the bill or what's happening with California NORML?
Nothing else. We're proud to have sponsored this bill. We actually provided the language for it, which was given to us by former state senator John Vasconcellos, who never introduced it back in 2004. So it had been sitting around in our files for many a long year. And then we heard that Amiano was interested in sponsoring something along these lines, and said, "Hey, we actually have language that's been prepared for this." And he took it, and it's and here we are.
Do we expect to get any co-sponsors on the legislation?
Well, all of the drug reform groups are going to supporting it, DPA and MPP, and the ACLU will probably, and so forth. But I think the more important issue is getting out to the broader community there, the taxpayer community.
How about the assemblyman? Any other assemblyman that might sign on?
We'll see.
Yeah. Okay, well, Dale Geringer is the coordinator for California NORML. You can find more information at canorml.org, including a fantastic review and analysis of what legalized marijuana would mean for the state of California. It's definitely good reading. Thanks for joining us, Dale.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you for downloading the NORML Daily Audio Stash, the growing truth about cannabis. We are produced by the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws in Washington, D.C. Our executive producer is Alan St. Pierre. Our deputy director is Paul Armentano. Our webmaster is Brian Judy. And web production is provided by Red Aphid Interactive Media. As always, you can catch up on the latest information about marijuana at www.norml.org. And you can interact and download from our Audio Stash blog at stash.norml.org. For everyone here at NORML, I'm your host, Radical Russ Belville, hoping all your harvests are bountiful and your encounters with law enforcement are non-existent. Leave you today with some reminders from our activist agenda at stash.normal.org/agenda. Tomorrow, Tuesday, a screening of Waiting to Inhale in New Hampshire, and marijuanaradio.com is live tomorrow night. In Thursday, Joplin, Missouri has a screening of Waiting to Inhale, and this coming weekend, Saturday, February 28th, the Tucson Peace Fair and Oregon NORML's cardholder meeting. Check our calendar for more details. And a cannabis quote from our good friend Mr. Spoff. This one comes from Justice Robert H. Jackson, a former justice of the Supreme Court, who said, quote, "The very purpose of a Bill of Rights was to withdraw certain subjects from the vicissitudes of political controversy and to establish them as legal principles to be applied by the courts. One's right to life, liberty, and property, to free speech and free press, freedom of worship and assembly, and other fundamental rights may not be submitted to a vote. They depend on the outcome of no elections." End quote. And within those inalienable rights has got to be the pursuit of happiness, and if smoking a doobie ain't pursuing happiness, I don't know what is. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.